39 need to get this off my chest because I feel like my whole world has fallen apart. My engagement with Alice, 34 just ended after 5 years together, and I lost not just my future wife but also our 2 dogs and what I thought would be my chance at having a family. At 39, everything feels impossible now, and I can't stop questioning all my life choices. I met Alice through my sister Sarah, 36 at our annual family barbecue 5 years ago. Sarah and Alice had been working together at Anderson & Partners accounting firm for about 2 years and had become close friends. Sarah had mentioned Alice to me several times before, always saying how we would be perfect for each other, but I was hesitant about dating someone from her workplace. I had gone through a rough breakup the year before and wasn't really looking to date. But when I met Alice that day, everything just clicked. She was wearing this blue summer dress and had this infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. We spent the entire barbecue talking about everything, our jobs, our dreams, our love for dogs. She told me about her golden retriever Max, who she had adopted 3 years prior, and showed me countless pictures on her phone. I remember thinking how her eyes lit up when she talked about him. We started dating soon after. Our first date was at a local dog park. She brought Max, and I brought my sister's dog since I didn't have one at the time. It was perfect because it felt so natural, just walking and talking while the dogs played. 3 months into dating, we started discussing moving in together. My friends thought it was too soon, but when you know, right? We found a perfect house to rent, a 3-bedroom with a big backyard for Max. 6 months after moving in, we adopted Luna, another golden retriever, as a companion for Max. Those first 3 years were everything I had ever wanted in a relationship. We had our routines, morning walks with the dogs, coffee together before work, weekend hiking trips. Alice would cook dinner while I did the dishes, and we'd spend evenings either watching movies or playing board games. We rarely argued, and when we did, we always resolved things before going to bed. My job as a software engineer at a large tech company kept me busy, and Alice was making great progress in her accounting career. We were both ambitious but always made time for each other. We had similar goals. We wanted to buy a house, have kids, create a stable and loving home. Alice often talked about wanting at least 2 children, saying she didn't want our kids to be only children like we both were. The problem started creeping in about 2 years ago. It was subtle at first, so subtle that I didn't even notice until it became impossible to ignore. Alice started staying late at work more often. Our morning walks became less frequent. She would say she needed to get to work early or was too tired. Our dinner conversations, once filled with stories about our day and plans for the future, became shorter and more superficial. I tried talking to her about it several times. The first few times, she blamed work stress. Her firm had taken on several new clients, and she was hoping for a promotion. I understood and tried to be supportive. I took over more household responsibilities, walked the dogs alone, and tried to make things easier for her. But even after she got the promotion she wanted, nothing changed. Last year, during our vacation in Hawaii, I proposed. I had been planning it for months, had the ring custom made, and chose what I thought was the perfect moment, sunset on the beach, just the 2 of us. She said yes, and for a moment, everything felt perfect again. That night, we talked about our future, made plans, and I thought maybe all our issues would resolve themselves now that we were taking this next step. I was wrong. The wedding planning brought out all the problems we had been ignoring. Alice wanted a huge wedding, 300+ guests, an exclusive venue, designer dress, the works. I preferred something smaller, more intimate. It wasn't just about the size though. She wanted to spend almost all our savings on the wedding, which would have meant postponing our plans to buy a house and start a family. Every discussion about the wedding turned into an argument. She would accuse me of not being excited enough about our big day, while I felt she cared more about the wedding than our actual marriage. The distance between us grew wider. We stopped doing activities together, no more hiking, no more game nights, no more cooking together. Even walking the dogs became a solitary activity for each of us. 3 months ago, I suggested couples counseling. We had a particularly bad argument about the wedding venue. She wanted this exclusive place that would have cost us nearly $50,000 just for the venue alone. When I expressed concern about the cost, she accused me of being cheap and not valuing our special day. That night, I brought up counseling, thinking it might help us communicate better. She dismissed the idea immediately, saying we were just stressed about the wedding and everything would be fine once it was over. But things didn't get better. If anything, they got worse. We barely talked except about wedding plans or household chores. Physical intimacy became rare and felt forced when it did happen. I started feeling like a roommate rather than a fiancé. The dogs sensed the tension too. Luna started having anxiety issues, and Max became more withdrawn. 2 weeks ago, after another argument about wedding expenses, I finally expressed my deeper concerns. I told her I felt we were rushing into marriage when we clearly had issues to work through. I talked about how we barely communicated anymore, how we seemed to want different things, how we needed to address our problems before getting married. That's when she dropped the bomb. She wasn't sure if she wanted kids anymore. This wasn't just a small change of plans, this was a complete shift in our future together. Having children was always part of our plan. We had talked about names, discussed parenting styles, even set up a separate savings account for future children's expenses. The next day, she called off the engagement. She said she had been having doubts for months but didn't know how to tell me. She had already looked at apartments and found one she liked. The worst part? She wants to keep both dogs because they're registered under her name, even though Luna was technically a gift from me to her. I'm devastated. My entire future that I had planned has disappeared overnight. At 39, I feel like I'm running out of time to have the family I always wanted. Most of my friends are married with kids in school already. The thought of starting over, of going through dating apps and first dates at my age, feels overwhelming. The house feels empty without Max and Luna. I miss their excited greetings when I come home from work, the sound of their paws on the hardwood floors, even the fur they would leave everywhere. I keep finding their toys under furniture and it breaks my heart all over again. Sarah has been supportive, saying I did the right thing by being honest about my concerns. But our parents think I should have tried harder to make it work. Mom keeps sending me links to articles about men finding love in their 40s and 50s, but it just makes me feel worse. Dad straight up told me I'm being too picky and should have compromised more. I know ending the engagement was probably the right decision, we clearly wanted different things. But I can't help feeling like I've thrown away my last chance at happiness. Is there any hope for someone my age to start over? Am I too old and damaged to find someone who shares my dreams of having a family? The thought of dating again feels overwhelming, but the thought of being alone forever feels even worse. Update 1. I never expected to be writing this update, and what I discovered has completely changed how I view the past 5 years of my life. A week after my original post, I ran into Jenny, 33F, Alice's cousin, at Wilson's Market while doing my weekly grocery shopping. I usually avoid this store because it's where Alice and I used to shop together, but I was in the area after taking Luna for her weekend visit. Jenny and I were always friendly but never particularly close. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, and I could tell she was debating whether to stop and talk or pretend she hadn't seen me. Eventually, she approached me in the produce section, and what she revealed turned my world upside down even more than it already was. After some awkward small talk about how I was doing, Jenny told me she had been carrying a heavy burden. She had seen Alice with her ex-boyfriend Mark at La Maison, an upscale restaurant in Burlington, about 2 hours from our city. Jenny was there for a work conference about 3 months ago and saw them having what appeared to be an intimate dinner. At first, she thought maybe it was a work meeting, but then she saw them holding hands and kissing. Jenny started watching them more closely after that. She created a fake Instagram account to follow Mark, and what she found confirmed her suspicions. There were check-ins at various restaurants and hotels over the past 8 months, always in cities at least an hour away from where we live. She showed me the photos she had collected on her phone, Alice and Mark at different locations, dates matching perfectly with times Alice told me she was working late or away on business trips. Everything started making horrible sense. The late nights at work, the sudden business trips, the emotional distance, her resistance to couples counseling, and most devastatingly, her sudden change of heart about having kids. Jenny revealed that Mark had a vasectomy years ago after having 2 children in his previous marriage, something Alice knew but never mentioned to me. I felt physically sick looking at the photos. There was one from December, right after we had spent Christmas with my family, where they were at a ski resort together. Alice had told me she was on a girls' trip with her college friends that weekend. I remembered how she had barely texted me during that trip, saying the reception was bad in the mountains. Jenny admitted she had been struggling with whether to tell me. She and Alice grew up together, more like sisters than cousins, but she couldn't bear watching me blame myself for the relationship failing when she knew the truth. The final straw for her was when she heard through family that Alice was telling everyone I was emotionally unavailable and that's why she ended things. I spent that entire night reviewing old text messages, credit card statements, and calendar entries. The pattern was clear once I knew what to look for. The late night meetings always seemed to happen on Thursdays. The business trips were always to cities where Mark frequently traveled for his job as a sales executive. The next day, I confronted Alice. I went to her new apartment, the one she had somehow found so quickly after ending our engagement. When she opened the door, I simply showed her the photos Jenny had given me. She tried denying it at first, claiming Jenny was making things up because she was jealous of her success. But when I mentioned specific dates and locations, she broke down. Through tears, Alice admitted everything. She had run into Mark at a conference in Chicago last year, though now I wonder if that meeting was really as coincidental as she claimed. They started talking, then texting, and eventually, it turned into something more. She claimed it was just emotional at first, she felt we were drifting apart, and Mark understood her in ways I supposedly didn't. But the worst revelation was about our dogs. The reason she insisted on keeping both Max and Luna wasn't just because they were registered in her name. She and Mark had already planned their future together. He owns a house in a nearby city with a large fenced yard, and they had discussed moving in together. She was going to take our dogs to live with them in their new life. I was devastated all over again. Luna was my gift to her for her 30th birthday. I had spent weeks coordinating with the rescue center, getting everything ready, making sure she would be a good match for Max. The thought that she was planning to take both dogs to live with the man she cheated with made me physically ill. Sarah exploded when I told her everything. She immediately cut all ties with Alice at work, which caused quite a stir since they had worked together for years. She also made sure everyone in their social circle knew exactly why our engagement ended. The office gossip spread quickly, and apparently, Alice has been having a difficult time at work since then. My parents, who had been giving me grief about not trying hard enough to save the relationship, completely changed their tune. Mom stopped sending me dating articles and started bringing me dinner instead. Dad, who rarely shows emotion, actually hugged me and apologized for doubting my judgment. The most practical mess to deal with has been our finances. We had a joint savings account where we'd been putting money away for the wedding and our future home. After discovering the affair, I checked the account activity and found that Alice had been gradually moving money to her personal account over the past few months. My lawyer says we have a good case to recover my share of the funds, especially since we can prove she was using some of it to fund her trips with Mark. The only small victory in this whole mess is that I managed to get partial custody of Luna. After presenting evidence that she was a gift from me and demonstrating that Alice's living situation was less stable than she had initially claimed, we reached a custody agreement through our lawyers. I get Luna every other week and every other holiday. It's not perfect, but at least I didn't lose her completely. I'm still processing everything. The pain has shifted from sadness about losing our future to anger about being deceived for so long. The fact that she watched me struggle to fix our relationship while actively pursuing a future with someone else makes me question everything about the past 5 years. Even our happy memories feel tainted now. Update 2: Just when I thought this situation couldn't get any more complicated, something happened that changed everything again. Last week, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer it because I've been getting a lot of calls from Alice's family members trying to convince me to work things out. But something made me pick up, and I'm still processing what I learned. The caller was Emily, 37F, Mark's wife. Yes, you read that right, Mark is married. Emily found my number through Jenny after discovering everything about Mark and Alice's affair. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the pain in it as she explained how she uncovered everything. Emily had been suspicious for a while, but things came to a head when she found hotel receipts in Mark's jacket pocket. She started digging and discovered a second phone hidden in his home office. The phone was full of messages, photos, and emails between Mark and Alice. Emily spent a whole weekend going through everything while Mark was on another business trip. We met at a quiet coffee shop outside of town to talk. Emily brought a folder full of evidence she had collected. It was surreal, sitting there with a stranger, piecing together how our lives had been torn apart by the same people. She showed me text messages where Mark was promising Alice they would build a life together, telling her he was unhappy in his marriage and planning to leave Emily. These messages were sent on the same days he was telling Emily he was working late and sending her pictures of his empty hotel room. But the real bombshell came when Emily revealed the timeline she had uncovered. According to the messages and photos she found, Mark and Alice's affair didn't start at that conference last year as Alice had claimed. It had been going on for almost 2 years, starting well before I even proposed. Emily found photos of them together dating back to 2022, including one from a weekend when Alice told me she was visiting her sick aunt. I immediately called Jenny to confront her about this. She broke down and admitted she had suspected something was going on much earlier but wasn't completely sure. She had seen Alice and Mark together at a family wedding 2 years ago, but Alice explained it away as a coincidental meeting since Mark's company did business with her firm. Jenny said she didn't want to create problems without solid proof, but now she feels terrible about not saying something sooner. Emily and I decided to confront them together. We figured they couldn't lie their way out if we both presented our evidence at the same time. Emily confronted Mark first at their home, while I arranged to meet Alice at a local park where we used to walk our dogs. When I showed Alice the complete timeline Emily had discovered, including photos and messages from 2 years ago, she completely broke down. She admitted everything: how she and Mark had reconnected at her firm's holiday party in 2022, how they started meeting secretly, and how she had convinced herself that what we had wasn't real love because Mark made her feel alive. She confessed that she had been hoping Mark would leave Emily, and that's why she had been stalling our wedding planning with endless venue discussions and budget issues. The custody arrangement for Luna has become complicated now. Alice called me yesterday, crying about how she's having to move to a smaller apartment since her plans with Mark fell apart. She asked if I would take Luna full-time, claiming it would be better for Luna's stability. Part of me wants to say yes immediately. I miss having Luna around full-time, and my house feels empty when she's not here. But another part of me feels angry that Alice is only doing this because her perfect plan with Mark didn't work out. Emily told me that Mark is trying to save their marriage, claiming Alice meant nothing to him and it was just a physical thing. She's not sure what she's going to do yet, but she's already contacted a divorce lawyer to understand her options. She has 2 teenage kids to think about, which makes her situation even more complicated than mine. The whole thing has left me feeling numb. I keep thinking about all the times I blamed myself for our relationship problems, all the nights I lay awake wondering what I could have done differently. Now I know that while I was trying to fix things, Alice was building a whole different life behind my back. Update 3. It's been half a year since my world turned upside down, and life has taken some unexpected turns that I never could have predicted. The biggest change is that I now have full custody of Luna. After Alice moved into her small apartment, she realized she couldn't properly care for a dog with her new work schedule and living situation. The irony isn't lost on me. I lost everything because of her choices, yet somehow ended up with what mattered most to me. Emily and I have maintained contact through all of this. What started as two people sharing their pain has evolved into an unexpected friendship. We meet every Sunday morning at the dog park. She brings her chocolate lab Cooper, and I bring Luna. Sometimes we talk about what happened, but mostly we talk about moving forward. Her divorce from Mark is proceeding, though he's still trying to convince her to give him another chance. Last month, Alice showed up at my door unannounced. She looked different, thinner, tired, not like the person I used to know. She was crying, saying she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She talked about how we could still have the family we planned, how she realized she did want children after all, how Mark had manipulated her into thinking she wanted a different life. I listened to everything she had to say, but all I felt was emptiness. The person standing at my door wasn't the woman I fell in love with 5 years ago. Maybe she never was that person. I told her I forgave her, not for her sake, but for my own peace of mind, but that there was no going back. She tried to reach for my hand, but Luna started growling, something she had never done before. Even my dog knew better than to trust her again. The dog shelter volunteering has become a huge part of my life. I go there every Saturday morning with Luna, who has become something of a therapy dog for the nervous rescues. The shelter manager even offered me a position on their board of directors, which I accepted. It gives me purpose, and seeing dogs find their forever homes helps heal something in me. Sarah set me up on a dating app before I was ready, saying I needed to get back out there. I deleted it after a week. The thought of trying to explain my story to someone new, of being vulnerable again, just feels overwhelming right now. Emily understands, she's in the same place. We joke about being each other's placeholder partners for family events, though neither of us is ready for anything more than friendship. I heard through mutual friends that Alice isn't doing well. After Mark chose to try saving his marriage with Emily, who subsequently left him anyway, Alice had a breakdown at work. She lost her job due to all the drama and her deteriorating performance. She's been trying to reach out through various family members and mutual friends, but I've maintained my distance. Some people, including my mother, have suggested I'm being too harsh, that everyone deserves a second chance. But I've learned that maintaining strong boundaries is crucial for my mental health. Luna has become my family now. We have our routines, morning runs, evening walks, weekend trips to the dog park. My house no longer feels empty with her around. I've turned one of the spare bedrooms into a home office, and the other into a personal gym. The future I plan may not be happening, but I'm creating a new one, day by day. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll meet someone who wants the same things I do, maybe I won't. I'm no longer racing against some imaginary clock. Life doesn't always go as planned, but I'm learning that sometimes the unexpected path leads to better places. For now, I'm focusing on my job, my volunteer work, and giving Luna the best life possible. That's enough for me right now.